here on this live stream because I am testing a new platform that will allow me to share my screen with you in a moment. I also just purchased a new microphone. Ooh, microphone. So I'm really excited about being able to record the podcast with that new sound. So that being said, let's dive right into the cast. I usually use my phone. I feel so lost right now, but it is recording on another channel as well. But you guys on the live stream and I guess watching this back later, get a little bit more than the average podcast listener. So again, welcome. Thanks for being here. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Like the video. I appreciate it. Feel free to comment. And then I will be live streaming on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So let's get started with the podcast. Hello, traders and friends. Welcome to another episode of Are You Green? Today is Tuesday, December 15th, and the markets finally had the rally that I was expecting from the good news around the vaccine, as well as more movement for stimulus. So the previous close for the S&P 500, the SPY, it was 364.66. It opened at 367.46. So I already knew, that the market was opening a little bit higher at, pre-market this morning. And now it's sitting around 369.10. It had a huge rally midday. So is the S&P 500 green? Yes, it is. I also follow the XLK, the technology indicator, and the previous close there was 124.75, and it's now sitting around 126.50. So the XLK is also green. And now the question everybody wants to know, are you green on my personal accounts? Yes, I am. Oh, I don't know why I said that. I'm not actually. I am actually slightly red. I was so enthusiastic to tell you guys that I am slightly red because I'm very happy with the stocks that I'm holding. And that's one of the reasons why I developed this podcast, because at the end of the day, you're not going to be green every single day. And that's a part of trading. It's part of the process. And you really need to, continue to follow your trade and not be concerned, even if you might be in the red. So when I say I'm slightly in the red, but I'm really happy about it, it's because the stock that I have bought that I'm holding right now is moving in the direction that I thought, and it just hasn't hit that bounce yet. So I'm going to hold true to my plan and wait for that bounce. And of course, I'll share all the trades with you guys. And I also want to talk about the news coming up just around the vaccine, what we saw with the government stimulus talks, and then what's happening with Louisiana. So let's take a short break here. And when we come back, we'll dive it right in. Awesome. So for the podcast, I segment that out and live stream. There's no breaks on a live stream. We're going. So thank you guys for watching, and let's dive right into it. Today, it was very exciting to see that Moderna has got along the process for approval, and it looks like they should start shipping vaccines by Friday. So this is very good news. We already have the Pfizer vaccine out. And that being said, today, seeing the Pfizer vaccine arrive in Louisiana was really exciting. There was a very emotional moment as, people who have been following this news cannot believe that it's finally here in the United States. So I did go ahead and see them administrate the vaccine to a healthcare worker in Louisiana. And I'm so excited for healthcare workers around the country to be given this vaccine because they need to stay safe. And they've already sacrificed so much during this time. So if you are a healthcare worker or any type of essential worker out there listening, I really appreciate everything that you have contributed, and just know that you are supported. I'm staying home, working from home as much as possible to try to do my part to flatten the curve. And then, of course, wear a mask. So, that was also in the news because COVID is still raging on, but the economy is feeling very hopeful for 2021. The stimulus talks today are moving a little bit further than before. It looks like there's a bipartisan deal with Republicans and Democrats already being negotiated, and they are hoping to pass this by Friday because that is the deadline. However, I was impressed hearing numerous politicians talk about how they are willing to extend the deadline to get something done for us. So that's just really great news. And again, we just hope that something is coming soon. So that's it for the news today. I want to dive into my personal trades. Today, I sold Apple, AAPL. My average on this ticker was 121.15, and I ended up selling for 125.30. It's a plus 4-point net gain. Really happy with that trade and how it worked out. Obviously, right now, Apple is a little bit higher than my sell point, but I'm not in this for a long term. I wanted to get the profit that that I was anticipating and then get out of the trade so I could have cash to get into new trades. So really, again, happy with that. And I want to go ahead, for those of you who are watching the live stream, I am very excited to now start to share my screen. So I haven't done this before, but we're going to test it out and see how it goes. So for those of you on the live stream, I'm going to go ahead and pull up the chart so that you guys can see what I'm seeing. And hopefully this is working for everyone. But moving to showing you guys the charts, I think is really helpful. You'll much better, you'll be able to understand my trading strategy a lot better with a chart. So okay, yeah, it looks like the screen share is working. So with Apple, obviously, I had my sale at 125.30 because it was right in between these two pivot points here. So if you're looking at the chart, I am currently in the 90-day 5 minutes setting for the timeline. I like that because the 90 days allows my quarterly pivots to show up on this chart. I do follow a pivot strategy. So, for those of you who are newer to the podcast, that is my strategy. Obviously, I did not invent this strategy. I learned it from a group of mentors. So you could see that my chart might look different than what you have because I do have these pivots in here. So the first thing to see is right before the open with Apple, we did see a really big increase. And that is, something that kind of alerted me before the market even opened that it might be a good day to sell. So I did go ahead and put my sell level between the weekly pivot at 125.52 and this monthly pivot at 124.92. So that's why I sold at 125.30. Obviously, it did surpass the pivot, and I mean now we're moving on up with this. The next, big level is 130. So if you're still in this trade, I think you can expect it to get to 130. However, I'm not about the long term. And, for those of you that are in Apple for the long term, I do think it's very, very safe and it's a great stock for long term. So don't see the title like sell Apple and like panic sell because the growth for this stock is, just hitting. It's just the tip of the iceberg right now with what Apple has planned out in the future. So no worries if you are holding this long term. With this screen share, the next ticker I want to pull up is Lemonade. It's LMND. This is a swing trade that you guys know I did enter into yesterday, and I went ahead and bought more of this at a specific level. So my order has not been filled, but I do have an order in at 84.40. So yes, this stock fell a lot today, like 5 or 6%. But am I worried? Not at all. I know what this company has the potential to do. It's also got a pretty decent volume for me. And again, I am following this pivot strategy that we see here. So my average is sitting right around this monthly pivot at 92.15, and I'm giving it this room in between the pivots to fluctuate, and to bounce around. That just further supports my theory, because the next pivot point is at 82.80, and that's going to be very strong levels down there, because there's three. There's a quarterly pivot there. A little below that at 80.99 is a monthly pivot, and then a weekly pivot at 79.73. So this pivot strategy becomes even more reliable when the pivots are closer together, because that forms just a really strong resistance. So I do have my next buy at 84.40, and I hope that it continues to go in the red so I can get filled, it can bounce, and then I can make a really great profit and sell for anywhere between 96.30 all the way up to this higher pivot at 107. So it's really exciting to be able to, share my screen and start to talk about stocks with you guys. For those of you on the podcast, I will also be, posting on Instagram. You can always reach out to me at Are You Green Podcast if you have any questions. I love getting your direct messages. And then as far as misses go, I did have a order in for RCL this morning. Maybe I'll try that share screen thing again and see if we can pull up the ticker here. But basically, I watch right off the open for drops. That is my number one with this pivot strategy. The pivot points are just telling me possible resistance areas. But that big emotional drop, if it's a downward move, that's telling me that, it has an opportunity to bounce. And then again, the pivot points to show me where it might bounce. So, pulling up the RCL chart right now, this is Royal Caribbean. I did have a buy right at 70.79 because I was a little concerned about, getting into this trade too early. It opened around 74.58 and pretty quickly went down to the monthly pivot at 71.75. I know people that bought there, and, obviously that was a great decision. I just was a little bit more cautious on this one. And so, my buy level was down at the weekly pivot right below the monthly at 70.60. However, I did not get filled. I missed it by like 10 cents, and then the stock bounced just like, we can see right here that that I thought it might. That's the perfect setup. It did that large bounce right back into the weekly pivot at 73.49, and that's about where I would have sold to make a couple of points there. But again, when I saw that I didn't get filled, I did not chase this ticker, and I think that is just the lesson I want to convey, is that I am not taking every single trade. I am focused on the trades that I know are going to be good trades, the trades that are A+ setup, that follow my strategy, have the volume, and so on. And you as a trader should be picky. And I know, some days, like this morning, it felt a little slow. So it's, a little bit harder to be picky, especially when you have the cash and you want to continue to trade and not the exactly right thing is coming up. But that means you need to stop. And that's definitely what I had to do this morning. So, that being said, I live to trade another day. I hope you did too. And I look forward to being again live tomorrow and talking with you guys about what the news is tomorrow and what is going on with my personal account. So trade safely out there. Take care. Bye-bye. Awesome. So that's the end of the podcast episode for today. For those of you watching on YouTube, thank you so much for your patience with me figuring out how to share my screen. I hope the screen share worked today. And, if not, listen, don't worry. I will go back to the drawing board and I will make this work for us. So that being said, tune in tomorrow for another live stream of the Are You Green podcast. You can listen to the podcast wherever wherever you listen currently, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc. And follow me on Instagram at Are You Green Podcast. Thanks, guys. See you tomorrow. Trade safe.